Alright, so finishing off our trilogy of looking at games for the PS1, we have Klonoa Door to Phantomile. Strangely enough, of all the Klonoa games that were released in the US, the original for the PS1 is the last of the Klonoa games I've played, including the remake for the Wii. Door to Phantomile was developed and published by Namco, with Hiro Yoshizawa being the lead director who had previously worked on the original Ninja Gaiden series. At first, Hiro wanted to make a game about robots that involved ancient ruins. However, that was dropped and instead Namco wanted to work on a project that could have a wider reach of appeal, which is how they came up with Klonoa. So, after all these years, is Klonoa Door to Phantomile worth playing? In the village of Breezegale, we find our two young heroes, Klonoa, a villager of Breezegale, and his best friend, a ring spirit named Hupo. One day, the two wake up to see a strange ship crashing into the nearby Bell Hill, something Klonoa had seen in his dream. Curious about the situation, the two decide to set out to Bell Hill to investigate the crash. Upon reaching the crash site, they encounter two mysterious figures, one being Ghadius, a masked character in a dark robe, and the other his assistant, Joka, a jester-looking fellow. It turns out that Ghadius and Joka are searching for something called the Moon Pendant, which they thought the diva Lapiche had. However, after they capture her, they can't find the pendant. Klonoa tries to stop them, but quickly Ghadius and Joka run off with Lapiche before Klonoa could really do anything. Fortunately though, Klonoa and Hupo manage to accidentally find the Moon Pendant. With the Moon Pendant in their possession, they decide to go to Klonoa's grandfather to get more information. After talking to Klonoa's grandfather, they are sent on an adventure, where they see that Ghadius has already disrupted the other kingdoms. So together, Klonoa and Hupo journey to bring back balance to the kingdoms and to put a stop to Ghadius and Joka. The adventure our heroes go on is pretty entertaining. Story-wise, it never gets too complicated, but the world you find yourself in has quite the dreamlike quality to it, which was the goal of the developers. There's something fun about going to the different kingdoms and helping the villagers in these kingdoms, while trying to put a stop to Joka and Ghadius. Plus, the colorful and memorable cast of characters you meet throughout the journey really helps add to the story. Characters like Pamela, Granny, and Baloo. Not to mention, our two heroes are pretty likable as well. Klonoa is rather upbeat and is always determined to do what's right, and Hupo is quite cheerful and supportive. The villains are pretty great too. Ghadius is a great mysterious and dark main villain who is very memorable, and Joka is great at being an annoying jerk who is often trying to put a stop to Klonoa. Like I said, the story is very entertaining and has some serious moments from time to time, with a really interesting ending that sets up Klonoa's role in the series. Klonoa Door to Phantomile is a 2D platformer in which you play as Klonoa. Like most other 2D platformers, Klonoa will have to get past enemies, collect dream gems that are basically like coins from Mario, and do some platforming. Sounds pretty familiar, right? Well, there are two big mechanics that help make this game stand out more, these being Klonoa's Wind Bullet and Klonoa being able to interact with both the foreground and background. First, let's take a look at the Wind Bullet, which shoots out of Klonoa's ring. With this Wind Bullet, Klonoa can grab enemies and use them as projectiles or for a double jump. Because of this, it really makes you think differently about enemies. Instead of them just being an obstacle, they can actually be used as a tool to get further in a level, save you from a fall, and to get past certain puzzles. While there is a variety of enemies with different attacks, most of them just act as basic projectiles when hit with the Wind Bullet. The only two enemies who act differently are Bommies, who will explode after a certain amount of time, and Tetons, who will pull Klonoa up for a few seconds. Unfortunately, these two enemies don't appear too often and aren't used in many of the puzzles. Speaking of which, puzzles will require you to hit switches, grab keys, and destroy certain objects. The way the levels are laid out really makes the simple puzzles more interesting. While it is a 2D platformer, levels will sometimes intertwine with each other and sometimes change dimensions, such as a railride section, a platform that changes the angle in which you enter a tree, and even moments when Klonoa will have to hit switches in the background that affect the layout of the level as you progress. This is often referred to as 2.5D, with Klonoa Door to Phantomile and Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards being credited as the first games to introduce this, and to be honest, I really like it as it helps make the levels to be a bit more engaging. In all the levels you can find 6 hidden villagers, and if you manage to rescue all the villagers you will unlock an extra bonus level that is quite the challenge and requires you to have mastered the Wind Bullet mechanics. With this particular section costing me the most lives and makes me really hate hate the momentum Klonoa carries when grabbing a Teton. It's a fun challenge that can feel rather rewarding once you have beaten it and unlocks a music box when you do. However, I do not recommend trying to rescue the villagers on your first playthrough. You see, the game is very linear, as you won't have access to the level select screen until you have beaten the game. Because of this extreme linearity, you're gonna want to be cautious with lives, as you can only save after you beat a level. This can make the game more difficult than it really is. For example, if you reach one of the later levels with only 4 lives and find the boss in that level rather difficult and die, you will have to start back at the beginning of the level with only 4 lives and have to replay the whole level just to reach the boss again. Thankfully though, the levels aren't too long. In fact, you can beat the game in about 3 hours. It's just that going for the villagers will cost you the most lives when first playing the game, so again, I wouldn't recommend it. The boss fights can be quite fun, as most of them aren't too challenging but are entertaining, like fighting a cobra dragonfly on a swinging bridge, a lizard thing in a circular hill, and a sea creature and king in an aquatic arena. To be fair, the final boss is a pretty good challenge. If you collect enough dream gems in a level, you'll get a special enemy icon next to the level at the level select screen, and that seems to be it. I honestly don't know what else it does. The game has an interesting visual style by having more 3D looking environments while the characters and enemies are all sprites, which actually does make sense since 3D modeling wasn't as smooth on the PS1 and probably wouldn't have aged as well. The sprites are very well detailed and have some nice smooth animations to them that I quite like. Of course, Pamela and her son are 3D models and are actually very well done. The levels have some great detail to them and are even a bit more memorable thanks to some of their themes, like a kingdom in the trees, going up a backwards waterfall, and a flying mechanical kingdom in the clouds. There's even some voice acting in the game, however, everyone speaks a fake language. Not only does this help make the world feel more distinct, it also helps make the voice acting come off as very good. The music in the game is pretty great, with plenty of memorable tracks that range from being upbeat and energetic to even some more calm and atmospheric pieces. So, would I recommend Klonoa Door to Phantomile? Absolutely. This is not only a great 2D platforming game, it's a great PS1 game that I think everyone should give a try. It's got some great gameplay mechanics, well thought out level design, fun bosses, and an entertaining adventure. Sure, the game is short and there are a few sections that can be frustrating, but again, it's still a really great game. If you plan on playing the original PS1 version, then it might be best to get it through the PlayStation Network, as physical copies can be rather expensive. There is also a Wii remake of the game that has some updated graphics as well as some changes that actually makes the game much easier. While I hate the voice acting in the remake, you can thankfully change the language, and it even has some different costumes to unlock, which is cool. In the end, the game is a great setup for the series that unfortunately never really took off. Klonoa 2 is still my favorite of the Klonoa games, but Door to Phantomile is a close second for me. And with that, we conclude our PS1 adventure. Now, it's time to get back at taking a look at some more PS2 games. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this review and found it to be rather informative. If you'd like to see more reviews, please check out my channel. And please don't forget to subscribe. And if there are any other PS2 games you'd like to see me review in the future, please leave a suggestion down below. Well, I'm MCB the PS2 Gamer, and I'll see you guys next time.